We're now going to turn our attention to some of the most interesting operators that are defined in RxJava's Observable class. These are the combining operators. Combining operators can be used to create an observable from multiple iterations or multiple sources. And we'll be looking here at the repeat and merge with combining operators. We'll start with the repeat operator. This operator returns an observable that repeats the sequence of items emitted by the given observable at most times number of times. This times parameter results in times plus 1 total subscriptions to the original source. As a consequence, using a value of 0 plays the original sequence once. The value that's returned from the repeat operator is the new observable instance. This operator doesn't operate by default on any particular scheduler. What that means is it relies on the context in order to find what thread to run in. As you can see in the example code snippet shown on this slide, which is something we'll look at more detail in the case study at the end of this lesson, we use repeat to generate 4 random reduced big fractions. The way this works is we use the observable from callable factor method operator to go ahead and make a big fraction, and then we use repeat to repeat this creation via calling the make big fraction random generating factor method 4 times. So we'll get 4 random reduced big fractions. Project Reactor's Flux class has a repeat operator that works essentially the same way. This is doing the same thing, except in this particular case, we're using flux from in conjunction with mono from callable in order to be able to generate 4 large random reduced big fractions. Let's now turn our attention to the merge with operator. This operator merges the sequence of items in an observable with the success value of the other parameter that's passed in. This parameter is called an observable source, and that's the parameter or the source to merge with. What's returned from the merge with operator is the merged observable instance. So basically what this operator is doing is it's combining items emitted by multiple observable sources so they appear as returned as if they're a single observable source. Here's an example at the bottom of the slide that we'll take a look at in more detail in the case study at the end of this lesson. As you can see here, we create 2 observables, O1 and O2, which let's assume for sake of argument are given various values using factor method operators like just or from callable and so on. And then we go ahead and take the observable O1 and we merge it with the observable O2. And that will go ahead and combine the 2 so they'll be presented as a single observable that will emit all the values in both the observables they were created from. This merging may or may not interleave the items. It depends on various factors. If you want to avoid interleaving, if you want to put all the items in the first observable first and all the items in the second observable second, then you should use the concat-with operator, and that will avoid interleaving. Note, however, that sometimes the merge with operator also will do what is effectively concatenation, depending on various factors such as whether you're doing things concurrently or not. Project Reactor has a Flux class whose merge with operator works essentially the same way as the merge with operator in the observable class from RxJava. Same basic idea, except in this case we have fluxes rather than having observables. Both of these operators are very similar to the Java streams concat method. Here's a very interesting little code snippet that will take in a list and a count n, and it will go ahead and concatenate the list n times. So it'll basically take the value of the list and keep adding it to the end of a local list that we're creating, or a local stream, and it'll concatenate the items onto the end. So it's basically making n copies of the original list and then returning that. And this is a very clever use of the concat method that's defined in Java streams. So that's the end of our initial discussion of combining operators in RxJava's observable class. We will come back later and talk about other combining operators because there's quite a wealth of them and they're very powerful and give you lots of interesting capabilities that we need to talk about in more detail in later parts of this course.